October 13th, 2020 is when this took place in Quebec Run Wild area. I took some time off from work and I wanted to do a 2-night backpacking trip camping in 2 different locations in Quebec Run Wild area. So it being in October, I got a little bit later of a start, didn't have a whole lot of time for hiking before I had to set up my tent and make camp. But I did manage to get in 4/10 of a mile from the parking lot to a hemlock grove that was really close to a creek, beautiful spot, soft to walk on, plenty of kindling wood that grows the bottom branches on hemlock trees and hemlock groves. They'll get almost any fire going. So I selected the spot, went over the ground, picked up all the small little pine cones and sticks and whatnot so I could set my tent up. And I actually used all that stuff to get my fire going. Set the tent up and began breaking sticks off of the hemlock tree that was about 10 feet away from the tent. So I'm breaking them off and getting the fire going, and it's getting darker now, like too dark to see. And the brighter that fire got, I felt more exposed, more vulnerable, being within the firelight.
Right.
And as we were talking earlier about that sense of being watched, really came through really strong and intense. But and you couldn't see beyond the ring of fire in the firelight. So the safest thing that I felt to do was to let the firelight burn down and get inside the tent. So I let the fire burn down, go inside the tent, didn't take my boots off, didn't get undressed, nothing. And I'm sitting inside of that tent. Then I lay down on my side and just pulled the sleeping bag up over top of me like it was a comforter. About 15 or 20 minutes after I did that, I hear a snap outside of the tent. And something hits the top of the tent 2 seconds later. I heard it again. The stick snaps, 1001, 1002, something hits the tent. And again, you'd hear a snap, and about 2 seconds something would hit the tent. This is not a coincidence, this is
something.
Yeah, this is a pattern now.
Yeah.
So it really was starting to unnerve me. I'm thinking to myself, there is definitely somebody outside of my tent snapping sticks and throwing them at the tent. I was pretty shook up. I had a 45 auto with me laying across my chest because by this time I laid flat on my back and it's right out to my right. I'm listening to all these sticks snapping. After about 2 hours, it stopped. I hear what sounded like the base crack of a tree, of a big tree, like an oak tree that a tree company would come in and cut out. And when you cut the initial cut, you hear that inner crack, that real loud. That's what I heard in the dark of night, what I felt to be about 30 yards from the tent. And down it went. The vibrations went through the ground, right up through that sleeping bag, and I felt that.
Wow.
I didn't know what it was. I mean, by this time, after having those sticks thrown at the tent, I was kind of like done rationalizing. I still figured, well, that crash had to have been either an overhead limb that broke and fell, or it was a whole tree that went over. But, I mean, it could have just been that tree's time to go over,
right.
Or it could have just been that overhead limb's turn to fall down to the ground. I couldn't, I didn't know one way or the other about that. But I had a pretty strong suspicion that somebody's right outside of my tent. They're breaking sticks and they're throwing them at the tent. Never went to sleep, never closed my eyes. I started everything inside the tent that I could do to get ready for a hasty retreat the following morning. I did from within inside the tent. I had my pack inside, rolled up the air mattress, put that inside of its little stuff sack, tied that to the frame, got my sleeping bag all back in its stuff sack, got it ready to go, and I'm pretty much the only thing I had to do was unzip the tent, go outside, and tear the tent down and motor on out of there. As soon as I unzipped that tent, I looked outside, and there was nothing but fresh broke sticks all around my tent, and every one of them hit the top of that dome tent and slid down into a different direction, all the way around it. People ask me, oh, did you see any tracks? When I looked outside that morning and saw those sticks, I didn't need to find any tracks. I knew what was there at that point. Normally I'm pretty anal about how my tent gets torn down. I'll pull the stakes out first, wipe all the dirt off of them, take the fly off, shake off any dew, fold it up, set it aside. That morning, Mike, those stakes come out of the ground, they could have had a ½ inch of dirt on them. In the sack they went.
Yeah.
That fly come off of that tent, it got rolled up into a ball like you'd roll a lunch bag up. The tent was zipped shut, and I'm rolling it up, and it's trapping air like a big bubble, and I'm getting impatient. I just lay up over top of this tent to force all the air out of it to get out of there. That's all I wanted to do, and rolled it up. In the bag it goes, lashed crooked onto the backpack, and I left. I mean, I was in a half stooped, half running with an external frame backpack the following morning because I didn't know if whatever threw those sticks was watching me still leave and get out of there. I don't know what it wanted, but I know one thing: if it wanted to have hurt me, it easily could have, easily. But I think it was curious.
Right.
But whatever it was, number one, it got down there without any means of light, 4/10 of a mile from the parking lot, and didn't make a single sound doing it. I don't know too many people that could do that.
No,
They
not
could-
at night.
Not at night, not to break one stick or reveal their presence. And
Yeah.
even if someone did, I would think it'd be taking quite a chance to tease or mess with somebody
Somebody that's
camping that they don't even know.
Right.
I mean, this person could freak out and panic and start shooting.
Or they could have a gun. Yeah,
like I did.
Exactly.
And then start shooting through the fabric of the tent. I don't believe that was a person down there at all that was breaking sticks and throwing them at that tent. I really don't. Not there. Not
And
that night.
that sounds like it's a cool encounter because it's the repetitiveness of it. You know, that shows the knowledge. You know, that's cool. That doesn't rule out a person, but it also rules out a lot of other animals.
Oh yeah.
So that's neat.
But I got out of there and made it back to the truck, and by now the sun was up, and I was actually kind of a little bit cold that night that I stayed out, even though I didn't go to sleep or anything like that. I was cold, and when I got inside of my truck and the sun came up over the mountains and came through that windshield and warmed me up, I was happy to be alive. I really was.